Hi and welcome to this channel. Today we're gonna keep watching the Napoleonic series from Extra History TV. This is a fantastic series, and so far it's great, right? We're gonna see Napoleon defeating Russia finally in Friedland, 1807. Original videos down below, and let's get into this.
An Epic History TV History March collaboration, supported by our sponsor Skillshare, home of more than 22,000 online classes. Find out about our
Let's see what
exclusive
Napoleon
special
does.
offer at the end of the video.
Let's see what he does. Friedland, isn't that in like Prussia?
1 week before Christmas 1806, French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte arrived in the Polish city of Warsaw, then part of Prussia.
Yep.
A year had passed since his great victory over the Austrians and Russians at Austerlitz, and 2 months since he'd hammered the Prussians at Jena.
I mean, these
but
ones
Russia
are
still
quick.
had powerful forces in the field,
right.
The most important of which was the Russian First Army, commanded by General Bennigsen. Napoleon would not be master of Europe until it was defeated, and Russia and Prussia forced to make peace.
Yep.
But that winter, Napoleon's first attempt to trap Bennigsen near Pultusk got bogged down in thick Polish mud.
Yeah.
The Russians withdrew to Białystok. The French army, half-starved and frozen, was ordered into winter quarters.
Makes sense, but they're a long way from home, though.
Napoleon began a famous affair with a young Polish noblewoman, Marie Walewska.
Right. And I believe he has... I don't know if it's 100% true, but I believe he has descendants from his affair with her, right? But it's illegitimate, right? Because it's not with his wife, so it's a illegitimate son because I don't think they married. So, but I think if you look pictures up on Napoleon's son, is his son? Yeah, son. I think he looks like him, right? He definitely looks like Napoleon. I mean, that's cool because and I think it's a photo, right? So it's pretty cool because you can get a look into, or you can look into the past, kind of through his son, illegitimate son, whatever, right? By the picture of his son that looks like Napoleon. I mean, that's pretty cool. But I think Napoleon was alive when cameras were a thing? Or no? No, he wasn't. Alright, whatever. Let's go.
In the late 18th century, the once mighty Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had been
look how
swallowed
big
up
Poland
by its
Lithuania is.
neighbours, Russia,
and Prussia is so
Austria,
tiny.
and Prussia. In a
But I mean, they were corrupt, the elites,
partitions.
Yep.
Until in 1795.
And it wasn't that long ago. Look at that. 1793. Right? The second partition, I think it was, right? Look, it's not even that long ago from Napoleon's victories. So,
a third and final partition wiped Poland off the map.
1795, that's not long ago for their perspective, right?
Polish patriots looked to Napoleon as their savior, praying that his victories
Makes
against
sense.
their occupiers would lead to the rebirth of a Polish state.
This is a little bit of contrast to the Italians that Napoleon liberated, quote unquote liberated, right? Because on their front, on the Italian front, I don't know if most of them, but a lot of them saw like Napoleon as just a replacement of another oppressor that the Austrians were, right? Or the Italians were to their own people, right? But the Poles look at Napoleon more as a liberator because of the partition, I hope, or I guess, right? From Prussia, Russia, and Austria, right? Yeah.
Marie Walewska became Napoleon's mistress in order to further this cause. Ordinary French soldiers, however,
that
had
makes
little
sense.
love for Poland. It was impoverished, freezing,
Yeah,
and they
makes
missed
sense.
home. Desertion rates soared.
Yep.
There were even
Makes
100
sense.
cases of suicide.
Yikes.
Marshal Ney, commanding 6th Corps, sent patrols towards Heilsberg, looking for better quarters. What they found were Russian and Prussian soldiers on the move. They'd stumbled into a surprise winter attack by
Do they don't have
Bennigsen.
scouts?
Napoleon quickly laid a trap for the Russian army,
That's gutsy.
ordering Ney and Bernadotte to retreat
Oh,
and lure Bennigsen west.
pull
while
back
he
and
led
then
the
go
rest
north.
of the army
Right.
north to fall
Right.
on his flank and rear.
I mean, that seems pretty straightforward, right? Not that difficult to imagine that your opponent will do against you. I'm talking from Bennigsen's perspective, but Bennigsen doesn't, I don't think, use the core system, right? He has an entire army with him at all times and march like that. So he's slow. His information is probably bad, but I mean, yeah, okay. And Napoleon has the core system. He can move his 1st and 6th Corps west just like that. Information easy, and they can just move. And he can move his entire army with the corps just north pretty fast. So you have to see what Bennigsen does to know if he's a good leader, right? He would know that the possibility of that would happen no matter what, if Napoleon had the core system or not, right? Because to me, as I can see on this map, as they portray it, right, I can only see that Bennigsen's back has no protection, right? Right? Buxhoden is in Białystok. Well, I mean, I can't see that he has moved west, so if Napoleon didn't have a core system, he would still be trapped, even if Napoleon had a big army, right? He would still be trapped if Napoleon moved fast. But now he moves even faster because he has the core system. All right. Let's see what happens.
But the Russians captured a French courier carrying the Emperor's
see.
orders to Marshal Bernadotte.
Ah.
Bennigsen, now warned
Lucky.
of the trap,
Nice.
ordered a retreat,
Well, not lucky, but
fighting a series of rearguard skirmishes against the pursuing French. But he refused to give...
again, let's think about this. What would be the next step? Let's say Bennigsen defeats the 1st and 6th Corps. What would be the next step? Would he go down and take on Napoleon? I still don't understand. He's alone, no? Or would the garrisons come out? Probably not, and attack Napoleon. What would be the next step? He takes out the 1st and 6th Corps by surprise. Let's say Napoleon doesn't react because he doesn't have information that quickly. And then what? Bennigsen is on Napoleon's northern flank? Okay. Sure. Now I think Napoleon's gonna get Königsberg now, right? Or
Evac the
Danzig.
city of Königsberg without a fight, and turned to give battle at Eylau.
Okay. What a massacre, and without any result. Already. Nice. Yikes.
The Battle of Eylau, fought over 2 days, was one of
In
the
February.
most brutal of the Napoleonic Wars, fought in freezing conditions,
Look at that.
neither side backing down.
Is that a true depiction of what happened? I mean, if if it's a little bit exaggerated, that's fine. Look at that. I'm guessing in Eylau there was a big cavalry charge or cavalry battle, right? Because almost everything that I see is some infantry, but mostly cavalry. Right? Wow. Look at that. Imagine just standing on a hill and seeing this, right? Like, I mean, it's pretty cold, so I don't know if you wouldn't want to do that, but okay.
Marshal Augereau's 7th Corps, advancing into the face of a snowstorm, lost its way and was cut to pieces by Russian cannon fire.
Wow.
5 French Eagles were lost.
Wow, that's big. That's huge, man. 5.
Napoleon's army was only saved by a devastating massed cavalry charge.
Okay, that's
by
where that
10,000 horsemen, led
10,000.
by the fearless Marshal Murat, and remembered as one of the great cavalry charges in history.
Wow.
At Eylau, for the first time as emperor, Napoleon failed to win a clear victory on the battlefield. He and the Russians covered up the true scale of their losses.
And we haven't even come to Friedland yet. This is just one of the battles. I mean, it's an important battle because it depends on what Bennigsen would do, right? If Bennigsen sort of won, he can stay there and protect Königsberg, right? But if Napoleon sort of wins, right? Then he can probably take Königsberg if he doesn't have to pull back to Warsaw, right? But look at these casualties. I guess estimates, of course, because they're rounding up numbers, but still, if you take 1,000 off on each one, except prisoners, I mean, what is that? 6,000 French. Wounded makes sense. On the Russian side, that doesn't make sense because usually you have more wounded than dead. So, okay. Yeah, this is devastating. Wow.
But both sides are estimated to have lost a third of their armies in the carnage.
Oh my.
After the horrors of Eylau, both armies sought time to rest and recover.
Exactly. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the newly formed French 10th Corps under Marshal Lefebvre besieged Danzig, held by 13,000 Prussians under General Kalkreuth. The city came under heavy French bombardment and infantry assault. After 8 weeks, with no prospect of reinforcement, the Prussian garrison surrendered on the 27th of May.
Sure.
Napoleon's northern sea flank was now secure against any possible Russian landing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The French emperor now commanded an army 190,000 strong, against just 115,000 Russian and Prussian troops.
I mean, 190,000 strong. I don't know. They probably had rest, right? Eylau, after Eylau. I don't know, and it's still winter, so it's a little bit. Probably the 10th Corps at Danzig has a nice, maybe, and in Königsberg, right? All right, let's see. Napoleon has outmanned them, right? If they all concentrate. But Napoleon can divide up his army, move fast, get in between the Prussians and Russians, and divide them, and then conquer again, right?
But it was Bennigsen who moved first, launching a surprise attack against Ney's 6th Corps on the 5th of June.
I mean, that would be pretty gutsy. In June,
Ney
they worsted a long time.
Withdrawal and escaped. Bennigsen, having lost the element of surprise, and with Napoleon advancing, retreated once more.
Okay. Makes sense.
4 days later at Heilsberg, the French lost 10,000 men in a botched assault against Russian defences. But the Russians continued their retreat the next day. Napoleon thought Bennigsen would head north to Königsberg, but instead he retreated.
I mean, this is a slugging match, but Napoleon is winning this, but Napoleon can't be winning slugging matches because, okay, he has some allies in Spain and in, I don't know if Bavaria is an ally, Schweiz, I don't know, Netherlands I think was an ally, right? Or, you know, he's the leader of the Rhine, right? But this is against Russia is the biggest country, right? Prussia is not the biggest country, but pretty professional army at least. Maybe not the leadership, right? Napoleon can't be winning slugging matches. He will in the end. If he only battles slugging matches, he will lose. He has to do Battle of Ulm, winning, or Austerlitz, right? Or Jena worked as well, right? But this against the Russians and Prussians a little bit, right? This, he can't be this is Pyrrhic victory, right, for Napoleon. In Eylau, that was a Pyrrhic victory, right? He lost much more men than his opponent, but he technically won because the Russians and Prussians retreated, but Napoleon did have to do that as well, right? So it's a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, nice.
Northeast, keeping to the east bank of the Aller River. So when
Okay, so it's not
Napoleon's
trapped,
army
but-
marched north, it was Marshal
Yeah.
Lannes' reserve corps on his right flank that next encountered the Russian army, near the small town
That
of
makes
Friedland.
sense. Okay, now we're getting to Friedland. Ride your horse into ground if you have to, but tell the Emperor we're fighting the entire Russian army. Yikes.
In the late afternoon of the 13th of June, Russian cavalry scouts informed General Bennigsen that they'd found a single French corps at Friedland.
Okay.
Bennigsen decided he had time to cross the Aller River and smash this isolated corps before the rest of the French army.
Okay, so I can see what Bennigsen is doing or trying to do, right? He's going northeast to then go northwest to come on the eastern flank of Königsberg to then go south and attack Napoleon head on, I think. Right? But I think he made a mistake and then didn't make a mistake, Bennigsen, right? Because again, he crossed the Aller River to the east. And now we have to cross it again to the west. But I understand why he got there, because if he would have stayed on the west side of the Ally River, he would have had the river to his back, which is not that good, right? But now he has to cross it and then keep the crossing and advance. But if Napoleon, which he is, fast, he will be trapped. Let's see what happens.
He could arrive to save it. And he ordered his army to begin crossing the river.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Marshal Lannes, commanding 16,000
Why only
men
cross in one
and facing
place?
46,000 Russians, sent an urgent message to Napoleon that he was under attack from the main Russian army.
I remember Lannes. We saw him at Toulon, right? He was there with Napoleon at Toulon, I think. Lannes. Nice.
Then he fought a skillful delaying action, hiding the weakness of his force behind a large screen of skirmishers, while gradually yielding ground
That makes
to the
sense.
enemy.
That makes sense.
Lannes was still holding off the
So
Russians
slowing him
as
down, right?
darkness fell.
Right.
That night,
What- now-
Russian engineers built
Right, now the Russians can't just sit there. What are they waiting for, right? What are the Russians waiting for? And Prussians? What, like, are they waiting for Napoleon to come and defeat him? Or are they crossing and then going northwest? What are they doing with this crossing, right? I don't know, let's see.
3 pontoon
And they're only
bridges
crossing
at
in one
Friedland
spot.
to speed the movement of troops
Okay.
over the river.
But why only in one place? That makes sense, but
Bennigsen
why
was
only in one
taking a
place?
huge risk. If this turned into a major battle,
Yeah.
his army would have to fight with its back to the river, and the steep banks of the Mill Stream dividing its left
Exactly.
wing from its right.
Yep.
Bennigsen had also
But
badly
what else would it do, though?
underestimated the
What
speed at
are
which
you hoping
Napoleon's Grande
for
Armée would
happen?
react. The first French reinforcements arrived
Yeah,
that
exactly.
night. The Emperor himself wasn't far
Already.
behind.
Shouldn't they attack now? Maybe not. Exactly not. We won't catch the enemy making a mistake like this twice. Exactly.
By dawn on the 14th of June,
That's
about
what I'm saying.
40,000 Russians had crossed to the west bank of the Aller River. Bennigsen ordered an attack on the village of Heinrichsdorf to turn the French left flank.
Okay.
But French cavalry reinforcements led by General Grouchy, intercepted the Russians.
Yeah.
In more than an hour of charge and countercharge, the French horsemen finally drove the Russians back. Marshal Mortier's 8th Corps now arrived to reinforce the French centre.
Yeah, now they have a...
In
not even,
Wood,
but I mean,
General
look at...
Oudinot's
now they're
elite
trapped.
Grenadier division fought stubbornly against Prince Bagration's left wing, but was outnumbered by the Russians and gradually pushed back.
I mean, I don't know how big the Ally River is in thickness, diameter, right? In diameter, but if you needed to escape or withdraw to the east side of the river, where are your troops at the southern portion or your left wing and the far right wing? Where are they going to go? Because you have 4 bridges, 3 pontoon and 1 real one by Friedland. But then you would concentrate your entire army at Friedland and would be under siege at the same time as you're trying to escape. Maybe build more bridges, at least pontoon bridges. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's shallow enough in some places that it can escape. But okay, let's see.
Around noon on a sweltering day, Napoleon himself arrived. He was soon followed by 1st Corps, commanded by General Victor, standing in for the wounded Marshal Bernadotte, as well as Ney's 6th Corps and the Imperial Guard
he's wounded.
under Marshal Bessières.
I'm still wondering, what is Bennigsen doing?
The 14th
What does he want to happen?
held special significance for Napoleon. It was the 7th anniversary of his great victory over the Austrians at Marengo. A good omen, he declared.
Austerlitz. Oh, Marengo,
The battle then entered a lull.
Oh,
As Napoleon assessed the situation, saw Bennigsen's
nice
dangerous
mustache.
position, and issued orders for an attack to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Bennigsen, meanwhile,
I mean,
was
if it's a
tormented
lull
by ill
in the
health
battle,
throughout
then
the day,
Napoleon has the
saw that
advantage.
he now faced the full might of Napoleon's army.
Oh, okay, that makes
And
sense.
issued orders for a retreat.
Yep. This is the objective. Advance, looking neither right nor left, bore into his thick mass, cost what it may. Oof. That's not good.
But before Bennigsen's retreat could get underway, at 5:30 p.m., 3 salvos from the French guns signaled the start of Napoleon's attack.
That's pretty cool that you do that.
It was led by Ney's 6th Corps on the
That
right
makes sense.
wing,
Save his right
who
wing.
first cleared Bagration's infantry from Sortlack Wood. But as Ney's troops left the cover of the trees, they came under heavy fire from Russian cannon across
and they
the
can't
river.
do anything about the cannons across the river if they don't bring their own
As the
cannons.
French attack faltered, Prince Bagration rallied his men and launched a cavalry
that makes
counterattack.
sense.
Ney's corps retreated.
And Bagration looks very exposed.
But now General Victor's 1st Corps came up on his left. Its artillery commander, General Senarmont, advanced with 30 guns and blasted the Russians at point-blank range with case shot. Hundreds of Russians were mown down within minutes. Under this onslaught, Bagration's men began to waver and then retreat
to Friedland.
Around 7 p.m., the Russian Imperial Guard launched a desperate counterattack to try to halt the French advance.
But the Imperial Guard is the reserve
and outgunned.
Yeah. His left flank
As exploding shells began to start
destroyed
fires in Friedland.
What is he doing?
The French centre and left wing joined
I understand
the attack.
he's sick, then have someone else do it.
With its only escape route under threat, the entire Russian army began a panicked retreat towards the river.
I mean, Napoleon could have crossed probably at Sortlack, maybe. You know, cross there and take his left wing. And the only place Bennigsen can go if he's fine, I think he's sick, so The only place he can go is north. So, but you know,
But Friedland's houses and bridges were now ablaze.
I don't understand this. Alright, in this animation, the Bagratians Advance Guard and the Imperial Guard are waving on this animation the white flag. Am I wrong, or does the white flag mean surrender, not just waving the white flag and just getting out there and not being fired upon because you're not firing upon? That, I don't know if this is just showing that, okay, the Imperial Guard is not fighting and the Bagratian Advance Guard not fighting, they're just going, right? Waving the white flag and then just going, not shooting, that makes sense. But I thought the white flag meant surrender, not just leaving and not shooting. But okay, I digress.
The town became a deadly trap for the Russians.
Yeah, only one way of escape.
Many were drowned trying to cross the river.
Right.
Others killed or captured.
Yeah.
North of Friedland, some units were able to escape across a ford or along the riverbank.
Okay, they're lucky. They were lucky.
There was no disguising the Russians' terrible defeat.
Yeah.
The Battle of Friedland was one of the most decisive victories of Napoleon's career.
Yeah.
At the cost of 10,000 casualties, he had inflicted twice as
Oh
many
my.
losses on the Russians. About 20,000 men killed, wounded, or taken prisoner.
Wow. I mean, those numbers are good. But again, after all those slugging matches before Friedland, I mean Eylau and the other ones, I don't know, yeah, this was great, but it had to be a much bigger victory than 2-1 casualty numbers, right? I don't know. Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
40% of Bennigsen's army.
Okay, that makes sense.
The Prussians abandoned Königsberg the next day.
Thought he had
It was
119,000.
occupied by Soult's 4th Corps, while Bennigsen's shattered army retreated across the river Yemen into Russia.
To St. Petersburg?
Tsar Alexander's advisors implored him to make peace with Napoleon. He accepted their advice, and a ceasefire was agreed.
Perhaps I was happiest at Tilsit. I found myself victorious, dictating laws, having emperors and kings pay me court.
Alexander and Napoleon met for the first time aboard a raft in the middle of the river Niemen, near Tilsit, and developed an immediate rapport. Tilsit proved to be one of history's great diplomatic summits, as the two emperors feted each other for days, with banquets, parades, and concerts, then discussed affairs late into the night. A friendship of sorts developed. While Russia's former ally,
British propaganda?
King Frederick William of Prussia, was left out in the cold.
Yeah.
And it was Prussia who would lose most in the treaties of Tilsit, signed 2 weeks
Makes
later.
sense.
1/3 of Prussian territory was taken away to create the new Kingdom of Westphalia, to be ruled by Napoleon's 22-year-old brother, Jerome.
Oh, 22?
And the Duchy of Warsaw, to be ruled by the King of Saxony, which Polish patriots hoped would prove a stepping stone on the road to their own state. Polish troops were recruited into the Grande Armée, with Polish lancers even forming part of Napoleon's elite Imperial Guard. Russia only had to give up the Ionian Islands, as Alexander accepted an alliance with Napoleon that left the French Emperor master of Europe. Alexander even agreed to join the continental system, Napoleon's economic blockade of Great Britain, which banned British ships and goods from all French-controlled ports. The system had been established the previous winter by Napoleon's Berlin Decree. Napoleon hoped that by cutting off British trade with Europe, he'd cause financial chaos and political upheaval in Britain, allowing him to make a...
I mean, one of the worst things you can do against humans, I guess, is to take away trade. However, I don't think it's... I mean, let's just think this through. Those countries that are with this treaty, do any of these countries need anything that Britain has to trade, has to offer? If the answer is yes, they shouldn't be in this. Okay.
Favourable peace. There was just one problem. The continental system didn't work.
Yeah.
Not only was it impossible to enforce and undermined
Exactly.
by widespread smuggling,
Yeah.
the system damaged French trade just as
Yes,
much
trade.
as British trade. The decisive
Shocker.
weapon in this economic war.
Shocker, when you sanction a country, this is basically a sanction, right? This worked though for the Brits in World War I and World War II, right? Because the Brits blockaded the German Empire and then Germany in World War II, right? They blockaded, although they also got blockaded-ish in World War I by submarines, right? And then World War II, same thing, right? But again, it hurts your country probably more than the country you're sanctioning against. Because probably you're trading something with that country that you're sanctioning, or your allies are trading with that country and they need probably stuff that they create and they need the things that you create. Like, this is a great theory, right? Great on paper, right? Probably great on paper, right? The sanctioning of Britain and probably Sweden as well, right? But in practice doesn't work. How would you uphold that? That doesn't make sense. I mean, let alone a country protecting its waters against pirates. Now you're going to protect it against smugglers from a country which is supplied by the country. Okay.
War would prove to be the British Royal Navy, which that summer ensured its continued naval dominance by launching a preemptive strike against the neutral Danish fleet at Copenhagen, capturing their warships before they could fall into Napoleon's hands.
Okay, that makes sense.
Royal Navy squadrons blockaded all major French ports, seizing any ships trading with France, while ensuring British merchants could continue to trade overseas in relative safety.
Yeah, Portugal
the Navy
is
even seized the tiny Danish island of Heligoland as a base for smuggling British goods into
base
Europe.
of operation.
But most disastrously for Napoleon, the continental system would draw him into two conflicts that proved ruinous for his empire. The first would be fought in the Iberian Peninsula, where Napoleon decided to force Britain's ally, Portugal, to join the continental system. In November 1807, French troops, supported by their Spanish ally, invaded the country. The Portuguese royal family fled to their colony of Brazil as the French occupied Lisbon without a fight.
Right,
it looked as though Napoleon had won yet another easy victory. But the Peninsular War was just beginning.
Yeah. Alright. That was great. Again, what I said. The battles before Friedland is a slugging match. And then a great victory at Friedland. I don't know if that outweighs the slugging matches before. He's going into Portugal to force them there to stop trading with the British, which Portugal and the Brits had, I think they have still the longest treaty as allies, as trading partners in the world, I think. I think it's called the Old Alliance, but it's not spelled O-L-D, right? But okay, this was great. See you in the next episode. Bye.